1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 in the place to be. Oh, hey, the KeysDAN Show. It's the KeysDAN Show. I need a new theme for the KeysDAN Show. You might hear news. You might learn stuff. You never know what you're going to get on the KeysDAN Show. Whoa, 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 whoa. What's up, party people? KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in a living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, The KeysDAN Show. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote. And maybe you could have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Let me entertain you. Let me do that. Let me do that. You know, make your next thing a big one. This week's shows, let's see, as I'm recording this on Saturday, March 27th, 2021, next Friday night and next Saturday night, Friday and Saturday night, you will have me at the RAB. That's my public show. Usually I'm there only on Friday nights, but the Saturday night team at All About Entertainment, Brock Forness, he said, hey, do you want to take Saturday night too? So the 2nd, April 2nd, and April 3rd, I will be at the RAB, Conway, Arkansas. The excitement builds. I was there last night. It was so good. It's so good. We're breaking out of coronavirus, the quarantine. There's light at the end of the tunnel. There's vaccines. There's treatments. So people are getting more and more, able to get outside and play. We're still wearing masks when we walk into the building and when we're walking around, use plenty of hand sanitizer, all that kind of stuff. When you're sitting down having your drinks and your good food, you can pull the mask down so you can get at the mouth area, you know, the place where the stuff goes in and down to the gullet. The RAB, 8 p.m. That's Friday and Saturday night, 8 p.m. The video dance party, karaoke jam. Friday nights, they even have a pool tournament. So if you want to try to make some money on a Friday night, I encourage you to check out the RAB in Conway, Arkansas. They got the full bar, kitchens open, pool tables, and of course, yours truly, the video dance party karaoke jam. Now, Saturday night, there's no pool tournament, so those 10 Diamond League style pool tables, I don't know. I've never played on them, but they look pretty dang good, and the people seem to enjoy them. They're really professional type. The people at the RAB, the management team, the Hawks, have really put a lot of money and effort into making that place a nice little club in Conway, Arkansas. The people seem to enjoy it. I enjoy it. I like going there Friday nights. And then this weekend, I'm going to get spoiled rotten. I get to be there on Saturday night as well. And from what I understand, there is a local biker club going to be there. So if you're a biker enthusiast on Saturday night, they're planning to be over there. It's, hey, and don't think of bikers as bad guys. I see you out there. I see you judging already. They're good dudes. They're going to have a good time. We're going to play a little rock and roll, I'm sure. I'm sure Bad to the Bone will show up sometime. Some of those Easy Rider type songs will pop in there just because I'm cheesy like that. I am. It's going to be a good time at the RAB. And if you like to hear the stories of others or tell your story, I'm going to encourage you. Check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, since I'm always trying to fill my head with knowledge, we're going to start off with 10 things you need to know today for Saturday, March 27th, 2021. That'll be the beginning. Then I'll probably go through a little history and maybe a fun thing to do on this date. Let's see, 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, Biden calls Georgia voting restrictions Jim Crow in the 21st century. President Biden on Friday criticized a newly enacted bill in Georgia that restricts access to voting, calling it, quote, Jim Crow in the 21st century, end quote. Quote, it must end, end quote. He said, quote, we have a moral and constitutional obligation to act, end quote. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, Republican, on Thursday night signed a new Republican-sponsored bill passed hours earlier that restricts voting by mail and reforms elections in several ways in response to the 2020 elections. The bill will require a photo ID to vote absentee by mail, cut the time period voters have to request an absentee ballot, and limit where ballot drop boxes can be placed and when they can be accessed. Voting rights groups have said the bill will disenfranchise voters of color. Biden called it, quote, outrageous, end quote, and, quote, an atrocity, end quote. This is according to the Associated Press and the Washington Post. Number 2, at least 64 reportedly killed during latest Myanmar protests. Myanmar security forces shot and killed at least 64 people across the country during Saturday protest, Reuters reports. While the Associated Press notes an independent researcher in Yangon, Myanmar's largest city, said the death toll reached 74. Either way, it marks one of the deadliest days since demonstrations against the February 1st military coup began more than a month ago. A boy as young as 5 was reportedly among at least 13 people killed in Myanmar's second most populous city, Mandalay. As the protests and killings took place, the military celebrated Armed Forces Day, and the junta's leader, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, said, quote, the army seeks to join hands with the entire nation to safeguard democracy, end quote. But, quote, violent acts that affect stability and security in order to make demands are inappropriate, end quote. Dr. Sassa, a spokesman for the anti-coup group CRPH, said it was, quote, a day of shame for the armed forces, end quote. This is according to Reuters and Al Jazeera. Number 3, Johnson & Johnson to deliver 11 million COVID-19 vaccine doses next week. The White House has announced that Johnson & Johnson is on track to meet its goal of delivering 20 million doses of its COVID-19 vaccine in the United States by the end of the month, something officials were reportedly unsure would be achieved. White House coronavirus response coordinator Jeff Zients said Friday that Johnson & Johnson will deliver at least 11 million doses of its single-shot COVID-19 vaccine to the government next week. Johnson & Johnson had planned to deliver 20 million doses of its vaccine by the end of March, but CNN recently reported that officials were, quote, not confident, end quote, this goal would be met after the company, quote, struggled to ramp up production, end quote. The announcement came one day after President Biden announced a new goal of getting 200 million COVID-19 vaccine doses administered during his first 100 days in office. This is according to NBC News and Politico. Number 4, Biden invites Putin, Xi to virtual climate summit. President Biden has invited 40 world leaders to take part in a virtual summit on the climate crisis, the White House said Friday in a statement. Among those who received invitations were Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping, though unclear if they'll attend. Biden said he hasn't spoken with either about the event yet, but, quote, they know they're invited, end quote. Aside from Putin and Xi, the U.S. invited the leaders of the major economies forum on energy and climate, which The Guardian notes includes the 17 countries responsible for about 80% of global emissions and GDP, as well as heads of state from countries especially vulnerable to climate change and others who are, quote, demonstrating strong climate leadership, end quote. The summit will start on April 22nd, coinciding with Earth Day. This is according to The Guardian and Fox News. Number 5, North Korea reiterates intent to expand nuclear weapon program. North Korea announced Saturday it will continue to expand its nuclear weapons program after President Biden criticized Pyongyang's most recent missile test this week. In a statement, Ri Pyong-chol, a senior military advisor to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, said Biden's remarks were, quote, thoughtless, end quote, and the administration, quote, took its first wrong step, end quote. Ultimately, though, the likelihood that North Korea will continue to conduct more weapons tests has, quote, little to do with what Biden said, end quote. Leif Eric Easley, Easley, a professor of international studies at Ewha Women's University in Seoul, told the Wall Street Journal. Rather, quote, Pyongyang is implementing a premeditated strategy of advancing military capabilities, end quote, while justifying the moves by putting the blame on the United States. This is according to the Associated Press and the Wall Street Journal. Number 6, 2 killed, at least 8 injured in multiple Virginia Beach shootings. 2 people were killed and at least 8 others wounded in multiple shootings in Virginia Beach, Virginia, late Friday night, city officials said. Police reportedly arrived at the, quote, original crime scene, end quote, shortly after 11 p.m., finding 8 gunshot victims. They were investigating when more shots were fired a block away, and an officer shot and killed an individual who was considered a suspect in what Virginia Beach Police Chief Paul Newdigate said was a, quote, police intervention shooting, end quote. A second person was killed in a separate nearby shooting, though law enforcement does not believe that incident was related to the others. No arrest had been made by the time Newdigate held a press briefing. Quote, what you can see is we have a very chaotic incident, a very chaotic night in the beach, end quote, Newdigate said. This is according to CNN and the Washington Post. Number 7, Egyptian authorities reportedly hope to make final push to free ship grounded in Suez Canal. After Egyptian authorities' operation to refloat the 1,300-foot ship wedged in the Suez Canal made significant progress Friday, there is reportedly hope the vessel could soon be completely free, though there are no guarantees. The Wall Street Journal reports. The Japanese-owned and Taiwanese-operated Ever Given got stuck in the canal on Tuesday, creating a major traffic jam that has affected a significant portion of global trade. Around 13% of maritime trade and 10% of seaborne oil shipments pass through the canal. The rescue effort could take 2 to 3 more days, those involved said. Once it's out, the ship should be able to operate. Yukito Higaki, the president of Shui Kaisen, the company that owns the Ever Given, said Friday. It will likely be towed to port for inspection, however, the journal notes. This is according to the Wall Street Journal and the BBC. Number 8, Dominion sues Fox News for $1.6 billion over false story of election fraud. Dominion Voting Systems on Friday filed a $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit against Fox News. The voting company alleged Fox, quote, sold a false story of election fraud in order to serve its own commercial purposes, severely injuring Dominion, end quote, by amplifying false claims that its machines changed votes from former President Donald Trump to President Biden in the 2020 election. Dominion has previously sued individuals who pushed this baseless conspiracy theory, including Trump allies Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell. An attorney for Dominion alleged Fox made a, quote, conscious, knowing business decision to endorse and repeat and broadcast these lies in order to keep its viewership, end quote. This comes after Fox was previously sued by the voting technology company Smartmatic for $2.7 billion over election fraud claims. This is according to the Associated Press. Number 9, award-winning novelist and screenwriter Larry McMurdy dies at 84. Award-winning novelist and screenwriter Larry McMurdy has died at 84, a spokesperson for his family confirmed Friday. McMurray was a prolific author who wrote Lonesome Dove, the 1985 novel that won him the Pulitzer Prize for fiction, as well as The Last Picture Show and Terms of Endearment, both of which spawned acclaimed movie adaptations. He also wrote over 30 screenplays, including for Brokeback Mountain, winning an Academy Award with his co-writer Diana Ossana in 2006. Former President Barack Obama awarded McMurdy a National Humanities Medal in 2015. Stephen King on Friday remembered McMurdy as a, quote, great storyteller, end quote, while Terms of Endearment director James L. Brooks praised him as, quote, amongst the best writers ever, end quote. This is according to the New York Times. Number 10, renowned children's author Beverly Cleary dies at 104. Beverly Cleary, the beloved and award-winning author of dozens of children's books, died Thursday in Carmel, California. Her publisher, HarperCollins, announced Friday. Cleary was 104. No cause of death was given. While Cleary became a prolific author, she didn't actually start writing books until her 30s. The Portland, Oregon native stories revolved around, in her own words, quote, just ordinary kids playing in the neighborhood, end quote. Subsequently, the Oregonian notes, Cleary, quote, didn't shy away from subjects that were once considered too touchy for children's books, end quote. And her writing dealt with issues like parental job loss, divorce, and loneliness. Her best-known characters were perhaps sisters Ramona and Beezus Quimby and their neighbor, Henry Huggins, all of whom appeared in multiple books. This is according to the Oregonian and the Associated Press. That's 10 things you need to know today for Saturday, March 27th, 2021. Thank you so much for listening. Let's find out what's going on this date in history. If we don't pay attention to history, we're doomed to repeat it. So on this date in history, Japanese cherry trees planted along the Potomac. In Washington, D.C., Helen Taft, wife of President William Taft, and the Viscountess Chinda, wife of the Japanese ambassador, plant 2 Yoshino cherry trees on the northern bank of the Potomac River near the Jefferson Memorial. The event was held in celebration of a gift by the Japanese government of 3,020 cherry trees to the U.S. government. The planting of Japanese cherry trees along the Potomac was the first proposed by Eliza Skidmore, who raised money for the endeavor. Helen Taft had lived in Japan while her husband was president of the Philippine Commission, and knowing the beauty of cherry blossoms, she embraced Skidmore's idea. After learning the First Lady's interest, the Japanese consul in New York suggested making a gift of the trees to the U.S. government from the city of Tokyo. In January 1910, 2,000 Japanese cherry trees arrived in Washington from Japan, but had fallen prey to disease during the journey. In response, a private Japanese citizen donated the funds to transport a new batch of trees, and 3,020 specimens were taken from the famous collection on the bank of the Arakawa River in Adachi Ward, a suburb of Tokyo, in March 1912. The trees arrived in Washington, and on March 27th, 1912, the first 2 trees were planted along the Potomac River's tidal basin in a formal ceremony. The rest of the trees were then planted along the basin in East Potomac Park and on the White House grounds. The blossoming trees proved immediately popular with visitors to Washington's Mall area. And the 1934 city commissioners sponsored a 3-day celebration of the late March blossoming of the trees, which grew into the annual Cherry Blossom Festival. After World War II, cuttings from Washington's cherry trees were sent back to Japan to restore the Tokyo collection that was decimated by American bombing attacks during the war. That's on March 27th of 1912. This date in history. What kind of good news is going on? Good news, March 27th. Oh, yeah. March 27th, 45 years ago, the first stops on the Washington, D.C. Metro subway system opened. The design of the Metro's vaulted ceilings was so inspiring that it was voted number 106 on, quote, America's favorite architecture on a list compiled by the American Institute of Architects. The Metro network now includes 6 lines, 91 stations, and 117 miles, 188 kilometers, of route, and is the second busiest U.S. rapid transit system for number of passenger trips after the New York City subway. Many of the clean, graffiti-free Metro stations were designed by Harry Weiss and are examples of late 20th century modern architecture with their heavy use of exposed concrete and repetitive design motifs. They also reflect the influence of Washington's neoclassical architecture in their overarching coffered ceiling vaults. Weiss worked with lighting designer Bill Lamb for the indirect lighting used throughout the system in 1976. And today is, March 27th, we celebrate International Whiskey Day. Since it's Saturday, I'm sure some folks out there will be having a little whiskey. Spanish Paella Day is also celebrated today, March 27th. Quirky Country Music Song Titles Day is also celebrated today, March 27th. And World Theater Day. So we're looking to get a little entertainment today. is celebrated today, March 27th. But the one on the top of the daysoftheyear.com calendar is Earth Hour. Let's find out a little bit more about Earth Hour, Saturday, March 27th, 2021, as we round this out. Earth Hour. Electricity has been such an enormous part of our lives that it's become difficult for us to imagine a moment without it. Be honest, can you really imagine life without your cell phone, your TV, or your refrigerator? Can you imagine having to wash all your clothes by hand, starting a fire just to get some warm water, or going to bed when it gets dark because candlelight is not really enough to do anything properly? You may take electricity for granted, but it wasn't too long ago that the aforementioned situations were the norm for people all over the world. But everything has a price, and it's becoming increasingly clear that the price of all our lives being made easier is the well-being of the planet. And that's why movements like Earth Hour were created, to help us give our planet some thought every now and then. The history of Earth Hour. In 2004, worried by scientific findings, Australia's Worldwide Fund for Nature met with an advertising agency in Sydney to discuss ideas for engaging Australians on the issue of climate change. Together, they coined the idea of a large-scale switch-off in 2006 and called it the Big Flick, and decided to make their idea reality. The mayor of Sydney was quickly convinced of the importance of raising awareness about the amount of electricity being used and how it affected that planet. And the first ever Earth Hour was held on March 31st in Sydney, Australia at 7:30 p.m. Soon, the idea began to spread, with San Francisco being the next major city to run a Lights Out program in October 2007. The event was an enormous success and received lots of positive media coverage. And by 2008, 35 countries in the world were participating on all 7 continents. Between 8 and 9 p.m., hundreds of cities in these 35 countries turned off the lights. Even some of the most famous landmarks participated, including the Sydney Opera House, Sydney, Australia, Empire State Building, New York City, National Monument, Jakarta, Indonesia, Golden Gate Bridge, San Francisco, U.S., Table Mountain, Cape Town, South Africa, and the Colosseum, Rome, Italy. Azrieli Center, Tel Aviv, Israel, Royal Castle, Stockholm, Sweden, the CN Tower, Toronto, Canada, SM Science Discovery Center, Manila, Philippines, Petronas Towers, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, KL Tower, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Wat Arun Temple, Bangkok, Thailand, the London City Hall, London, England, and others. In 2016, the number of countries participating grew to 170. Many celebrities have expressed their support for the event, including Lionel Messi, Al Gore, Yoko Ono, and Nelson Mandela. How to celebrate Earth Hour? The best way to celebrate Earth Hour is, of course, to participate. You should also remember, however, that Earth Hour is not just about 1 hour, but about caring about our planet every other hour of every other day of the year as well. The thousands upon thousands of MWH of energy that are saved worldwide during Earth Hour mean nothing if we do not continue to care about the environment afterwards. So think about what you can do on a daily basis to save energy, and then do it. Even little things like exchanging your regular light bulbs for more power-saving ones can make huge differences if many people do them at once. Let that 1 hour that is Earth Hour inspire you to make the world a better place for the remaining 8,760 in the year. Whew. That's it for this edition of the KeysDAN Show for Saturday, March 27th, 2021. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you so much. I saw that Joseph Clements and Ryan A. Stripling were watching on the Facebook feed. I like to do these live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch as well. So, and then I record them and I make them into an audio podcast. So if you're listening to the audio version, you can check out the video versions on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. That's it for this edition of the KeysDAN Show. KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out.